Or we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Monday, August 31st meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission, virtual meeting via Zoom. Technical difficulties. We'll start with roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson present. Vice Chair position is currently vacant. Alder Veronica Corpustax. Present. Commissioner Bremer. Present. Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Petrosky. It seems he is absent at the time. And Commissioner.
Present.
Okay. All right. To the approval of the agenda for the August 31st, 2020 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
I move approval.
So motion by Commissioner Bremer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Miller. Any further discussion? Do we need a roll call vote on this?
I don't think so, Lisa. I just asked whether there were any objections for this and for the approval of the minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, voice vote will be just fine tonight.
So, okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and that is passed. Then going on to the approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the July, nope, that was, sorry, old agenda picked up. Approval of the minutes from the August 10th, 2020 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
So moved.
So motion by
Second.
Alder Corpustax and a second by Commissioner Bremer. Any objections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to regular business. And the first piece of business is election of vice chair for the Green Bay Plan Commission due to a vacancy.
Sure.
So do we have a nomination for vice chair?
This is Sid Bremer. I'd like to nominate Jake Miller.
Second.
Okay, so a motion by Commissioner Bremer and a second by Alder Corpustax. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Okay, so with this one, do we want to do a roll call vote?
That would be correct.
Okay, all right. So, so on the nomination of Jacob Miller to vice chair, Alder Corpustax.
Aye.
Commissioner Bremer. Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner, was Randy able to join us?
I'm here.
Oh, Commissioner Petrosky
Aye.
and Commissioner Daniels.
Aye.
Okay, and I will also vote aye. So congratulations, you are now the vice chair of the Planning Commission. All right, so now I need to write that. All right, okay. So on to the next item of business is a public hearing on the request to amend the comprehensive plan for the property located at 215 Elizabeth Street from medium density retail office or housing to commercial, submitted by Steve Beta, Mao and Associates on behalf of Mirhashimi Incorporated property owner. And I do want to state that this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Gazette. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. And we will now open the public hearing on the agenda item I just read, but first we're going to have staff go through and kind of give a brief overview of what that agenda item is.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. All right. Is that better? Are we getting feedback? How's that? No. Sorry, just having some feedback issues.
Yep. You might want to mute either yours or Madison's.
Yeah. How's that?
They might be feeding off of each other.
Yeah, is that better? Can you hear me?
Better.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. We're still working through our technology. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for a comprehensive plan amendment. It involves two parcels that are on the northwest corner of Main Street in Elizabeth. You can kind of see in the graphic here, here's Main Street and Elizabeth. The property is highlighted in red. The current comprehensive plan recommends medium intensity retail, office, or housing. The proposal is to go to commercial zoning. So that is the reason for the comprehensive plan amendment. Here is the current zoning of the area. There is some existing highway commercial zoning, or C2, on the immediate northwest corner, and there is C1 property to the north. The proposal here is to amend the comprehensive plan to commercial and then to rezone to a highway commercial, the same zoning that's here, to expand a car lot, used car sales. So this site currently on the immediate corner here has been approved for used car sales, and the hope would be to expand that to the north. So with that said, I'll turn that back to the chair.
Okay, so what we're looking for is we're wanting parties who are first in favor of the proposal. So is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this proposal? And is there anyone wishing to provide information only on this proposal?
There is one who'd like to speak that I saw.
Emily, it looks like you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you.
So if you could just please give your address and whether you represent a group or association.
Sure. My address is 1569 Proper Street, Proper, Green Bay 54302. And I do not represent any group or organization. I am a neighbor that lives on the street that is one of the boundaries of that property. So I wanted to express my concerns, as well as some of my neighbors' concerns. I know one of my neighbors was going to send an email with his concerns. When this topic came up about a year and a half or 2 years ago, we had a meeting with a larger group of residents, and some of the concerns were the amount of traffic that this is going to bring to the area. It's already a very busy intersection. The light pollution, they're very concerned with. We currently have issues with light pollution in the area that needs to be addressed. And putting a car lot all the way up to the backyards of some of the residents is going to cause even more light pollution in the neighborhood. I'm opposed to this because the person that's requesting this has not been a good neighbor with a vacant lot for the last however many years this lot has been owned by this person. I have sent multiple requests to the city for inspection issues for this parking lot that's been left vacant, and broken glass, garbage, overflowing garbage bin. The gentleman that owns the property had assured us 2 years ago that he was going to take care of the property, and he has not, even after he resurfaced the corner lot that was approved for the car lot. That lot constantly has abandoned cars in it, broken glass. I think they use the parking lot for parking at a nightclub that's on Main Street, and there's always garbage in the parking lot. People leave their cars there for weekend. There are currently, I think there's a trailer parked on the lot that's for sale. Unkept cars. I mean, this lot has been an inspection issue ongoing. I know if he puts a lot there, there will be other cars. I mean, the cars will be there for sale, but I just worry how well the lot will be taken care of, how traffic will be controlled. We have enough car lots in this area already. Within probably a 5-block radius, I would bet there are at least 7 car lots. We don't need another used car lot in this space. I understand the one corner has already been approved, and we accepted that when this came to us 2 years ago. But expanding it to an even larger lot is just going to cause more issues. So I would request that I would ask that you deny this request.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony, Emily. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one has come forward, and this public hearing is now closed. And moving on to agenda item 3, which is specifically about the public hearing we just had. Consideration and possible action on the request to amend the comprehensive plan for the property located at 215 Elizabeth Street from medium density retail, office, or housing to commercial, submitted by Steve Bita, Mao and Associates on behalf of Mirashimi Incorporated property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a few other points to add. I just wanted to share the site plan that was presented at the neighborhood meeting. Our staff did suggest that the current applicant meet with neighbors, and that occurred back in April of 2019. There was really no consensus at that time. I think there were still more questions with neighbors, so it was really kind of left as is, so to speak. But this is the proposal that was shown to neighbors that would expand the car lot. It also shows some buffering here as well. But again, there's no real consensus from neighbors. Regarding the land use, we talk about transition. This is kind of an important area where we see a commercial corridor getting closer towards residential properties. So our recommendation tonight is not to support the comprehensive plan amendment because it doesn't really act as a proper transition to the neighbors or the residential properties to the north. Although it does have a general commercial zoning currently, it just would not permit an expansion of a car lot in this particular case. We did notify affected property owners within a couple hundred feet of this. We did receive one late communication that someone was supporting this, an adjoining property owner. But at this point, staff is not recommending approval of the comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So was there any discussion among commissioners? Commissioner Bremer?
I'd like to ask Paul if he could read the reasons, particularly numbers 1, 3, and 4, behind the staff recommendation. I thought they were very clearly put forward. They have to do with the fact that this particular request involves a change in the comprehensive plan, an amendment to the comprehensive plan. Paul, would you be so kind?
Sure. There are several criteria that are used in looking at the comprehensive plan analysis, and that is included within your report, but I can highlight that certainly. So the first one is, this is the first question that comes out of the plan for our review, the comp plan. The change is consistent with the goals and objectives of or other elements of the smart growth plan. And staff's response is, staff feels the proposed amendment is not consistent with the goals and objectives of the plan. One, it does not reduce the land use conflict through appropriate redevelopment of a blighted, vacant, or underutilized property, enhance buffering or screening, and improve buildings and site design. Further, it does not regulate the pattern of land use to find a desirable balance among quality of life, property values, environmental protection, and economic development. I think that was the highlight. Sid, was there some other point that you, or number 3 you were looking?
Numbers 3 and 4.
Sure, I can go on.
I'm not able to access that information myself.
Sure, and I don't have that on the screen, but I can read that as well. So question 3 is,
thank you.
Development resulting from the change does not create an undue impact on surrounding properties. Such development should be consistent with the physical character of the surrounding neighborhood or would upgrade and improve its viability. Staff's response is the proposed change in land use would possibly create a detriment to the residential neighborhood with additional lighting and noise. The fourth criteria that we look at, the change allows for a more viable transition to the planned uses on adjacent properties than the current land use. Staff's response is the proposed amendment does not provide a more compatible transition as the adjoining use is more intense than currently recommended. So again, that's the issue with the transition that I mentioned previously.
Thank you, Paul, for doing that for me.
Sure.
I do want particularly to appreciation for the attention to green space here. But the idea of deciduous trees as a buffer going into the winter seems to me solely inadequate, and I hardly agree with the staff's concerns.
Was there any other discussion among commissioners?
Please, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Paul, could you flip back to the comp plan map just real quick? I just want to understand which ones have, which parcels have already been approved. You mentioned which, or I forget exactly which one it was, but which has already been approved to operate or to be as C2?
Sure. I'll just use the zoning map. So there's a hatch pattern here. This has existing highway commercial zoning. So that building is right about here, the 215 Elizabeth. So this whole corner has already been approved for auto sales. The balance of the properties is general commercial.
And when was the change made to the comp plan for the part that is C2 right now?
I don't know that. I think that's kind of a legacy zoning. I think that's probably been there for a number of years. You know, it could even probably go back to maybe a gas station at some point. I'm not quite sure, but it wouldn't be uncommon to find, you know, C2 or B2, former B2 uses or zoning really tight to certain high traffic corners.
And just last question too, in terms of ownership, just to make it clear, is it one party that owns all of the parcels that are in question here?
Yes, there are 2 parcels. Everything outlined in red here is owned by the applicant, yes.
Got it, thank you.
Sure.
I don't see a full gallery view. So if there's any other commissioners that have any questions or comments.
Alder Corpus Dax.
Please go ahead.
Is there, just checking, is there anyone else who is interested in speaking regarding?
Yeah, we need to open the floor.
Yes. So I would motion to open the floor.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, so we've got a Motion and a second to open the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And then who, I know someone had just messaged me, would like to speak regarding this. If you want to come forward and give your name and address.
John Leroy with Mount Associates here on behalf of Steve Beta, 400 Security Boulevard, representing Mr. Mirashimi, the property owner in question. Just to go ahead and follow up on some of the points made by neighbors and staff. As noted, this is has been approved on the southern parcel to go ahead and be a car lot. From the owner's perspective, to go ahead and make the volume work on the property, he needs to have the northern part of the parcel work in order to go ahead and make the southern part function. When it comes down to the improvements on site, he has made mention that because of the property and the usage to the west there with the nightclubs, people have parked on the gravel lot. Doesn't see people really parking on the blacktop lot, but the gravel lot has been parked upon. He put up some barriers on occasion, but they have been taken down also over the course of time. But improvements have now been made to the site because he's been waiting to go ahead and try to have a site plan, a rezone along with the comp plan. With noting the site plan and the trees and vegetative area on the north side of the property, he's willing to go ahead and make changes to make this work for a buffer on the site for both meeting our impervious surface needs and then to try to go ahead and create a better barrier between the parking lot and that'd be in the future and then the existing neighbors. From ownership's perspective, he feels that with the our hours that we'd have here be between say 9 to 6, a typical Monday through Saturday, a lot, it would bring more structure to the site itself as far as having a use that is known again to potentially users of the properties to the west where it's a stable 100% used lot right there compared to what it is now, which is gives the impression to folks that maybe you can go ahead and use it and leave spaces for littering, things of that sort. That's a perspective from ownership's side on this. So it's needed in order to go ahead and make a business like this go ahead and work for scale.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Commissioner Daniels.
Quick question. We had one of the neighbor representatives on with us. She did voice concerns around the littering and the current condition of what is already there. Has the owner, to your knowledge, made any attempt other than recently to address those concerns?
Certainly, sir. Valid point. In my conversations with the owner, he has said that he has tried to go ahead and note when there might be, say, litter from weekends at the bar to pick things up. I don't think right now the property is being used that much that there's somebody there on site to be on top of it right now because of it being essentially a vacant property. But he feels that with it becoming, if it were to become both in the comp plan and then rezoned, at that point, with the site being structured, that clearly there'd be a lot more presence by people who would be taking care of the property vigilantly all the time rather than not all the time at the current moment.
Were there any other questions for the applicant or the applicant's representative? Okay. Was there anyone else that wished to speak on this item? Oh. Go ahead, Robert. Please state your name and address. Oh, you're on mute. I can't unmute you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, my name's Robert Heinrichs. I'm at 1807 Lost Dolphin Road in De Pere, Wisconsin. I'm actually the prior property owner here who sold it to Mr. Maraschini, and I had got it a few Mendick Incorporated. This was a difficult property to get a grasp on and maintain. It used to have a restaurant nightclub in there. That was a tenant of mine, ended up having a fire and burnt down. After that, that's when we sold it to Mr. Maraschini as a vacant lot. I think addressing this property is probably something that needs to be done, especially for that area, because it looks horrible as it is. And there's no sense in just letting it sit and not be developed, I think, from the city side. The neighbors didn't like it when there was a restaurant there, and they didn't like it when there was a nightclub there. Now there's nothing there except for parking for another nightclub. And that was an ongoing problem that I had with the property, was the neighbors with the nighttime crowd coming in to park and making noises till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. If this is something that could be addressed to the neighbor's satisfaction, that you'd have a lot less traffic and noise pollution, I would think, by going in with a car lot that would have regular business hours. And like the applicant's representative said, you would have people actually on the property maintaining it. It's a nice property, and he has done good property work otherwhere in the city and on the corner lot as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak about this item? Staff, do you see anyone else that has a hand raised or is looking to speak?
I do not, no.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the floor.
So moved. This is Sid.
Second.
Thank you. So motion from Commissioner Bremer and a second from Commissioner Petrosky. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any? All right, the floor is closed. Is there any discussion amongst the commission?
I have some thoughts. I'm a little conflicted on this one for a lot of the points that Mr. Heinrichs made. At some point, certain properties really only have certain uses that they're going to be good for. And I know that we want to maintain the integrity of the plan, obviously, but an undeveloped parking lot or, asphalt lot, whatever it is at this point, invites trouble and invites interlopers, especially when it's in close proximity to nightclubs and other facilities that operate at night. And that's not to cast aspersion on those types of facilities. They certainly have their use and their value in the city, and they're good business owners. But I think that Mr. Heinrichs made a really good point in that if you have a sort of more of a 9-to-5 type business on this lot with employees there every day and actual property, cars, buildings, I think it would discourage hours at other local establishments. And certainly they have an incentive as business owners to maintain their lot, to make sure that it looks good to potential customers and is safe for the employees, much more so than a property owner who just has a vacant lot sitting there. So I think that those are the factors that lean in favor of supporting this petition from the owner, in my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner Kowalski. Alder Dorf.
Thank you, Chair. So as I listen to this, and I try to attend as many plan meetings as I can get to, I'm wondering if there's anything that we could do for the neighbors as a buffer or something like that, that would help this be more acceptable, because I think that all the comments that were just made make a lot of sense. The things that the neighbors don't want to see are a vacant lot being misused. When you put something on the lot, then there is more control. It didn't seem like light pollution would be a concern because of the hours, although I imagine they will have lights on those cars all night long just for security's sake, so there could be more light. I'm wondering if there is some kind of compromise that could be worked out with the neighbors, or some kind of a buffer situation. Even if you have to refer it back to staff. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Alderdorf. Is there anyone else that has discussion or points that?
Yeah, Lisa, if you don't mind.
Vice Chair Miller.
I think kind of bouncing off both Alderdorf, but also Rainey's comments as well too. Definitely want to see sites getting activated. Having them sit dormant doesn't really help anybody. I think some of the other comments about what else could this really be used for.
I think you just got cut off.
Jake, we can't hear you.
Sure.
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
It did cut out, yeah.
What was the last part there, sir?
I believe the last part was you were talking about how great my comments were, but I'm not 100%.
Well, yeah, pretty close actually. Yeah, really just kind of reiterating, but what you and Alderdorf had mentioned there too is I think we want to see sites activated. We don't want to let them sit dormant, especially in a tougher situation like this where there hasn't been anything on it recently. It's in disrepair. While used car lot is not ideal, it's something there that would need to be maintained. And it would be in the owner's best interest to maintain it and keep it clean, keep it, looking good for just for their business sake. So I like those aspects. What I do not like is how much it's encroaching into the neighborhood. So I think kind of going off what Aldorf had said, if there's a way to get a larger, more substantial buffer between the neighborhood and the business, especially with the lights, especially with the traffic, I think there could be some more favorable opinions here. But as of now, I'm going to have to agree with staff and probably vote for denial on it as it sits right now.
Yeah, I guess the main concern that I have, because I agree with the compromise, I agree with not wanting to have a site sit vacant that doesn't help anyone. The concern that I have, and I'm sure this is part of what staff is looking at too, is to amend the comprehensive plan from medium commercial. Sure, we can approve a site plan that we like right now for whatever is going in there, but I worry about in the future, at that point, if we change the comprehensive plan and then change the zoning, we can't take that back, and we can't necessarily force a larger buffer for the neighborhood. So that's the only concern that's the biggest concern that I have. But I agree, we don't want things to sit vacant. That doesn't invite anything good. Were there any other commissioners that wish to speak about this?
This is Sid. I wonder, I know we've already closed the floor, but I wonder if we might ask Mr. Leroy if he could address those concerns. We're missing the applicant himself. I would certainly love to hear him express some sense of responsibility for the property, but also some willingness to deal with the larger buffer, which might very well be a berm around the edges, and the question of light pollution. I'm wondering if Mr. Leroy might give us any information there.
Well, do we move to open the floor then?
I guess I do.
Okay, second, anyone?
I'll second.
Second.
Second by Alder Corpus Dax. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And the floor is open. Mr. Leroy, if you could go ahead with those questions.
Thank you. Mr. Mirashemi, just to let the audience know here tonight, does regret not being able to go ahead and be a part of this, but he did have a prior commitment that he could not get out of here tonight. But when speaking with him, green space is when it comes down to this site plan put forward back in April of last year, there will need to be an addressing to go ahead for both engineering's sake and then to go ahead and be a good neighbor, trying to find ways to make buffers. And I see here on the northern part of the property, it's not as though the drive access area is double loaded. So I'm going to suggest that there is room to go ahead and bring that buffer down further. Additionally speaking, discussions with different electrical and lighting companies in the area to find a lighting solution. You are correct that the lighting would be on 24 hours a day because of the cars in the lot, but to go ahead and direct the lighting to be just at the lot itself and not go over to the properties off to the north and to the west where there's residential light. So the main addressing that comes down to when it comes down to the car lot itself is he needs the volume to go ahead and be able to properly make this car lot work. Just is not enough with the amount of parking stalls to the south to make this work. So my understanding is from before, like I said, when it comes down to they looked at a buffer that had what is shown right now to go ahead and maximize space that is there to be both impervious and then use the lot as much as possible. If that buffer doesn't meet quite what this commission needs to have, I think there's room to go ahead and make it work to allow for more green space.
Did anyone else have questions for Mr. Leroy?
I do. Can you tell me how long he's owned that property? I think Mr. Heinrich said he sold it right after the fire. How long has he owned that property?
A minimum of 2 years. I do not know how long it would be, though, after that. I'm sorry.
Do you know, Mr. Heinrich, when you sold that to him?
I would have to guess is about 7 years. I don't remember exactly the fire, but it's been an amount of time. I don't know when he acquired the other lot. I didn't sell him the lot on the corner of Main and Elizabeth. It was just the Elizabeth Street lot that had the former nightclub restaurant on it. If you have any other questions, I can answer any other questions anybody else might have as well also.
Thank you. I guess I wanted to say it's kind of disingenuous to say it's been a vacant lot for so many years, but he's owned it for those many years. So development was really up to him after he purchased it. And, you know, we kind of just went through this a while back with Mr. Gobin when he had the lot that he wanted on, remember Baird and Mason, right? Used car lot issues. And look, we've all been to purchase cars off of lots probably, right? So definitely a need for them. But in my mind, I think the bigger question that I'd like to ask the Plan Commission is, when you have these plans in place, I feel like we need to go above well, it's better than what's there now concept. Because I think that's the first go-to is like, well, it's better than what's there now. But this neighborhood has really struggled in the past with traffic and noise with the businesses that are across the street on Elizabeth for many, many years, and trying to come to terms with that mix of residential and business. So, I mean, I agree with the staff, and that I think we should really look at, not allowing another large used car lot on this corner to protect these neighbors. And the decision's up to you guys, but at some point we have to start saying what's in the best interest for the city in the long term. That's all I have to say.
I'd like to move to close the floor again and return to regular order of business.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, the floor is closed. David, did you have a question, or was that a hand up for something else?
No, I just wanted to make a comment and kind of reiterate what Commissioner Miller had mentioned, that this isn't a planned development or a conditional use permit. It's a straight rezone. So, I mean, you can look at the site plan and say you want a larger buffer, but you don't put conditions on a rezone. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Then I am going to move denial of the request.
I'll second with the added comment that, you know, obviously when we're splitting something like this, we like to go back to the staff's comments and the checklist that goes through a comp plan change. And when we're split, I think you have to defer to what's there in the staff's recommendation.
Is there any other discussion?
More of a comment. I intend to vote for denial as well, but I would certainly be willing to reconsider this if it were brought to us perhaps in a different package with a different proposal that provided more protection for the neighborhood.
This is Alder Corpus Dax. I agree with a lot of what a lot of the comments here, as far as wanting to protect the neighbors, but also not wanting to see that lot continue to sit empty. I'm unfortunately inclined to vote in favor of denial, but as Commissioner Petrowski said, more than willing to reconsider this under a different package.
Okay, so I guess I do have thank you, Alder Corpus Dax. I do have a question for Paul. So, I mean, everyone's saying if something else comes forward, us denying this doesn't, if we vote to deny the request, that doesn't disallow them from coming forward with something else. Is that correct?
Correct. I think they could come back. There's no limitation in this case for a comp plan amendment. So, yes, they could come back.
Okay. So were there any other comments from commissioners?
This is Sid. I just, so as not to mislead the applicant, I do share Ms. Renier-Wigg's concern about yet another large parking lot, basically, or a used car lot in the middle of what is a major part of our downtown, close to downtown.
Thank you, Commissioner Bremer. Any further comments? Okay. Hearing none, I will go ahead. The motion on the floor is in favor of denial of the request. So Vice Chair Miller?
Aye.
Alder Corpus Dax? Aye. Commissioner Bremer?
Aye.
Commissioner Pertowski?
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels?
Aye.
All right, and I will also vote in favor of the denial. So unanimous vote for denial of the request. And when do these all go on to the City Council?
I believe it's September 18th.
I think it's the 15th, September 15th.
Yep, yeah, that's a Tuesday. So, okay, so September 15th. All right, and we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public hearing on the request to rezone 1748 Main Street from general commercial to highway commercial, submitted by Steve Beta, Mao and Associates, on behalf of Marjorie Charlier, property owner. And if we could just get some information from staff before we move on to the hearing portion.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for rezoning along Main Street, the 1700 block of Main Street, actually 1748. The property is highlighted in red here. There's an existing single-family home here, but the majority of the property is vacant. The current comp plan shows commercial. Main Street, of course, is a commercial corridor. And the existing zoning is general commercial. So again, with the ability to sell cars, you need that highway commercial or C2 zoning to do that. So that is ultimately what's being asked here, is a rezoning from C1 to C2.
Thank you, Paul. So then we are opening the public hearing on this item. We're looking for anyone to speak who is in favor of the proposal.
Lisa, Mr. Leroy, I believe.
Was that you raised your hand? Go ahead and speak, please.
Roy Mount is 400 Security Boulevard here on behalf of Steve Beta. If you'd like, I can make a presentation right now, or I can wait until after the public hearing is done.
Paul, what would you prefer?
I would have the testimony now, if I heard it correctly.
Okay.
Sounds good. So what is being proposed here would be some infill. This would be down near the Pick and Save over on Main Street. The people who are looking to develop the property are from Main Auto Source. They're about a mile up the road right now on a piece of land that they've outgrown. So they're trying to go ahead and do a auto car lot as well as some car maintenance in the 85 by 40 foot building. Conceptually speaking, that building would be a 2-story building that would house both auto shop and offices for the property itself. The garage entrances would become on the south side of the building away from Main Street, with parking for cars along the northern and eastern edges of the property. This is a matter of demand again. They've outgrown their space over to the west and feel it's more appropriate over here in a bit more of a suburban area compared to where they're at right now, near where the property we're just referring to on the last agenda item.
I think you're muted, Lisa.
Sorry about that. Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else that's wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone wishing to speak who is opposed to the proposal? Is there anyone else wishing to provide information only for the proposal? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward. This public hearing is now closed. And we move on to the associated agenda item. Number 5, consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 1748 Main Street from general commercial to highway commercial, submitted by Steve Beta, Mao & Associates, on behalf of Marjorie Charlier, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give you an aerial perspective here of the property. Again, you can see the single-family home, vacant lot along Main Street. And the applicant was just talking about the site itself. This is a conceptual plan that was provided by the applicant. Again, you can kind of see the location of the dealership and then the parking areas for the vehicles. So we've notified affected property owners. I think we received one response supporting the request. I just wanted to also clarify an issue from a zoning perspective, which we would not consider this a spot zoning. So here is the zoning map itself. It shows the general commercial area on the west side of Main Street. There is highway commercial zoning across or on the east side of Main Street. That's opposite. And it's also part of the city's comprehensive plan to have it as a commercial corridor. So we don't believe this is considered a spot zoning in this particular case. So Again, staff is recommending approval of this request.
Thank you, Paul. Was there any discussion between commissioners or questions for staff?
Yes. I would just like to, I have a question to ask, and I'd like to say that I am familiar with Maine Auto Source. I can speak as both the alder and speak on behalf of the neighborhood association. They are a wonderful neighbor, and they take excellent care of their property. It's really a source of pride along Main Street. That's my comment. My question is, when you allow for development of a property like this, is there always a condition that they must create some kind of flood mitigation feature in the property?
Sure, yes. As part of the site plan review, they'll have to submit a site plan, and they'll also have to provide some stormwater management. So depending on the size of the lot, depending on the impervious coverage, there will have to be some sort of management plan for the water. You know, beyond that, there has to be green space. Typically in this type of district, it's an 80-20 mix. The max impervious is 80%, so that leaves 20% pervious. But yes, there will have to be some sort of stormwater management as part of this.
Okay, thank you.
So as follow-up then, Paul, does this meet those requirements, the 80-20 in particular?
Well, I think it's very close, yes. I mean, this is a conceptual plan that's been provided, so they were not required to provide a detailed site plan necessarily. It was more or less a courtesy, but certainly we'll look for those points when we review the site plan.
And just as there would be that concern about the balance between pervious and impervious surfaces, is there also a requirement that we could count on the planning staff enforcing for some kind of protective barrier or buffer for the surrounding homes?
Sure.
I had the same kinds of concerns here that I did on the previous one. And if you could speak as well, Paul, about what makes this different from the previous situation.
Yeah, the issue here is that this has an existing commercial land use as recommended by the city's comprehensive plan. So it's not a comprehensive plan change. We can support this because it's consistent with the plan. So again, kind of going back to the concept plan, you can see the green here. It might amount to maybe 20%. It may have to be beefed up a little bit. But when this property adjoins a residential property, there's a 15-foot transitional yard that's required on this west side here. So that would mean a fence, hedge, or berm might require some landscaping as well. So those are things that we'll be looking for requiring as part of the site plan.
Thank you.
Paul, I do have a quick question as well.
Sure.
With that current picture that you had up, is the current business, is that the business across the street currently?
I don't know for sure. There is some sort of auto repair that's going on across the street, but I don't know the ownership necessarily. There's
auto care directly across the street, and then to the south east, there's also Auto Zone. A few doors.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there any other discussion? Is there anyone public that would like to speak? Okay. Any other discussion on this item? No. The chair would entertain a motion.
Since this is in keeping with the comprehensive plan, I will move to accept the staff's recommendation to approve the request.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the request. Any other discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vice Chair Miller?
Aye.
Alder Corpus Dax?
Aye.
Commissioner Bremer?
Aye.
Commissioner Petrowski?
Aye.
And Commissioner Daniels?
Aye.
And I will also vote in favor of the proposal. That's a unanimous vote. And moving on to item number 6, which is a public hearing on the request to authorize a conditional use permit for material recovery facility and auto salvage operation at 1156 Velp Avenue, submitted by Burroughs Midwest LLC, doing business as Midwest Scrap Metal property owner. And if staff could please go ahead and give us an overview of this before we take public hearing testimony.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So this is our request for a conditional use permit, the public hearing for a request for a conditional use permit. So the property itself is on Velp Avenue. It's 1156 Velp. It's on the corner, northwest corner of Winford and Velp. You can see it outlined on the screen in red. Site doesn't quite look like that. There's no structure on the site any longer. But this is the location. It's about 3.2 acres. Again, it has a lot of impervious surface, 100% impervious surface. So this is the site. Can you go to the next slide, Paul? Okay, this is the future land use plan. So you can see the southern half of the site in our land use plan is shown as commercial. The northern half of the site is shown as a general industrial type of use. And across the street is a medium density office retail housing. And then further to the south, you can see it's all single family or low density residential. And the next slide, please. I want to point out that in 2017, the Velp Avenue area-wide plan was adopted. This plan kind of went up and down Velp Avenue and showed potential redevelopment options. It was adopted into our comprehensive plan as a supplement or as an addendum. So what you see on your screen now, it's just the cover. And then this was called Transformative Site Number 3. It included the Allwyn Manufacturing Building, which is adjacent to the west, up to Winford Avenue. And probably more importantly, so this is a concept of what could happen on the site, and it was just part of the plan. But more importantly, if you look over to the left, there is a land use table and a compatibility matrix. Correct. And the Velp Avenue plan here recommends the most compatible uses to be commercial, or excuse me, to be a mixed use office and retail or industrial, and then dropping down to commercial or office, and then least desirable is multifamily or green space. But I want to point out in the plan as well that it does call for modern industrial uses. You can see on the draft concept that that's a showroom, contractor showroom, commercial area. The historic reuse of the structure would not apply to this site itself. There's no structures on there. But really the goal of the Velp Avenue plan, if I can summarize it in one sentence, which is very difficult, but it's to make Velp Avenue a more friendly and inviting corridor from the west to downtown. So to lessen the presence of industrial uses and sort of increase that activity and active type of uses. And then I guess the next slide, please. This is the zoning map. So even though the Velp Avenue plan had recommended that, the comp plan does show it as different future land uses. The existing zoning on a majority of the site is general industrial. Just about 80 feet back from Velp Avenue, there's a strip of highway commercial, which is C2 zoning. So this is what our zoning, existing zoning shows for the property itself. And with that, I had mentioned that the property is about 3.2 acres. It does have right now no buildings. It is fully covered in impervious concrete. It's got some compacted gravel. There's some loose gravel piles from a recently demolished building at the corner. There's, I think, 2 curb cuts on Velp. I think there's 6 curb cuts on Winford. The reason the petitioners are requesting the conditional use permit is to permit, there is a newly established material recovery use on the site right now. You'll notice a fence went up. And I think there's some material storage in there currently. This conditional use permit would require, is required if they go to more of a retail salvage operation. So when I say that, it's would be an auto salvage yard or a scrap yard where people would bring items there to be sorted, to be sold. They could be dismantled, and that kind of thing. That's a little bit different. So the material recovery is more of a commercial aspect. There's not coming and going of customers. There's not autos or refrigerators or that kind of stuff. But the salvage or the auto salvage would contain those. So that is what they're requesting. What's on the screen right now are some images of the site. There's going to be 2 slides of this. I'm sorry I kind of crammed them on. But the upper left is, you can see right on the corner. So you can see where the building was removed. There's sort of some gravel there. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see it a little bit better. So there's a curb cut that comes in off of Winford. And you can kind of see where the building was. The bottom left shows the elevation change from Velp down to the majority of the site. Again, the previous parking area or drive aisle area, and then the gravel where the building had been sitting. In the bottom right is just sort of the frontage down Velp looking west. And the one thing I wanted to point out there is you'll see there's sort of, it's kind of blends in with that white building, but in front of the white building, which is the Alwyn building, there is some remnants of a wall, a possible building wall, or a brick and stone display area that has not been removed. So that is still there. If you want to go to the next slide, Paul, I can kind of go down the next one. So there's 3 more. This is, the upper left is looking past that more commercial site on the top where the building was removed. You can see the stone blocks blocking a driveway that leads into a sort of a gravel and other area there. And then you can see the salvage operations behind the fence to the south. I shouldn't call them salvage, the material recovery operations to the south. Up in the right-hand corner are just those blocks showing curb cuts. You can kind of see the condition of that southern part of the site. That gravel pile there, I believe, is the remnants or maybe fill from the building removal. I'm not sure. And you can see the back of that structure or that wall that is still sitting there that hasn't been removed. And then on the bottom picture is just there. There is a requirement for any outdoor storage has to be screened from view at least 6 feet high. So this is the fence that went up just this year that blocks the material recovery operations from the rest of the site. And then I think, Paul, you switch over to another one. 2 site plans were submitted with the application. So the one on the left is an amended site plan. It's a little bit difficult to read because it shows the old structures on there yet that have been removed. But you can see those on the southern part of the site. They're kind of in white. And that line that cuts through that white area is that fence that I had showed you. Correct. And that circles the entire site. So the operation, as it would show right now, you can see some material storage areas, and you can kind of see the fence. There's a truck scale that is on here as well. About a 600 square foot office building just to the south of that truck scale. And then about a 5,500 square foot warehouse where it's being pointed at right now. Some of the other stuff that's proposed for the site is some equipment parking, some car drop off, and vehicle storage areas. and an area for roll-offs, luggers, and trailers. And I am no expert at that, but that is a lot of that is the rental dumpsters in different forms. And the petitioners can correct me because they know better. So that is what's being proposed for the site. South of the fence, they are not proposing any use at this time. That's about 120, or excuse me, about 100 curb of Velp. And then I'll wait for the actual meeting to go through our report.
Thank you, David. So now, with this being a public hearing, we ask that you confine your testimony to the facts related to the proposal at hand regarding the land use of this parcel. And we will ask for interested parties, people who are in favor of the proposal, if they would like to come forward to speak. I see Michelle is what the name is. If you could give me your name and your address and unmute yourself, or can staff? Oh, there we go.
Eric Burroughs, B&B Metals, currently located in Newton, Wisconsin here.
Jay Burroughs, same address.
And you wish to speak in favor?
Yes, in favor of the changes, correct, for the application.
Was there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I basically we're wanting to know your recommendations that you guys feel, and then, work our way through that. So I guess we're, wanting to see what you guys come up with or what your thoughts are on it, and then answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Well, and this is the public hearing portion of that. So probably when we touch on that in the next agenda item, we can go through that and answer any questions at that point.
Okay, very good.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposal? Is there anyone who wishes to speak that is opposed to the proposal?
Yes, I would.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Just state your name and address.
My name's Jerry Bigelow, 1216 Buchanan Street. Okay, 1 block away to the south of that, I'm putting in about an $8 million, $10 million complex in there right now. All my money, no TIF money or anything. For me to get that complex in there, I had to take all my frontage of Velp and leave it vacant. And I had to rezone it to retail in case somebody wanted to go with this plan that was just showed. So I had to admit $1 million building to go along with this plan. And a block away, what I'm looking at right now is garbage. Those refrigerators, food in them, there's seagulls in there. It's going to draw rats. It's the most repulsive looking thing that any city could possibly ever have. There's a staging area on there that Mao has for 3 staging in the back. They're already not doing that. They got 55-gallon drums in the front. So they're already not doing what they're supposed to do. It should have never went in there. I mean, I come to Green Bay. I own all the buildings alongside of it. The city gives me this. I had meetings. I had 5 meetings with all the neighbors. There isn't one neighbor that wants what you put in there. It is terrible. And the reason they're not on there is because they don't know how to work these phones. If they had some neighborhood meetings over there, you'd have the whole neighborhood in roars. He's not going to keep the rats out of there. He's already not putting the material where he's supposed to be putting the material. I talked to some other people that are going to be delivering steel there and metal there, and they says the traffic there is going to be horrendous. How are those trucks? The only exit you got going up to 43 is a block away. How are you going to control that? There is no exit down in Howard up on 43. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to have somebody come and spend upwards to $10 million, and then you put that alongside of me? I can't even, that guy's saying handling material. It's not handling material, it's garbage. Come over here and look at it. Then he's got, he's got three little circles there where he's supposed to be putting the stuff. He ain't gonna do it. He's gonna put the stuff wherever he wants to put it, just like he is now. So I won't give him one thing to expand that thing. I mean, the city told me to invest $10 million. They showed me this. Then they do it to me. That's all I got to say. And I'll tell you, if he had some neighborhood meetings, there would be hundreds of people. John is still in there from Mao. Ask him. John did the meetings. He knows what the neighbors want. He's probably still listening to this. He's the one that ran all the meetings.
You got 72 families moving in.
Yeah, I got 72 families moving in, 150 people. You go down a little bit further, you got 100 families moving into the neighborhood. Now, alongside of that, they're building another 200 units. You got another 400 people. You got 700 people moving into this neighborhood. 700. And the fence that he put up, you can look, when you ride by Velp, there is no fence. The elevation is more than 6 feet. I mean, it's a joke. There isn't a city in the state of Wisconsin that would allow that junk in there. And I'm telling you, everybody around here feels the same. It's absolutely, you go over there tomorrow morning, they take those refrigerators, they smash them on the ground, the food's all over. I've had more seagulls on my damn roof since they moved in. So the rats are coming. It shouldn't be here. It shouldn't be in any city. He wants to do that. You tell him to build an enclosed building on a whole damn thing and put the whole damn thing inside and get some rat control and then do something about the traffic. You're going to have semis backed up here. They're not going to be able to get on Atkins exit.
And they got
what you think?
They
got to make a left. What you think you're getting there and what you're going to get there, it ain't even close. You wait till that thing gets running 100%. That 6-foot fence, he's going to have 30-foot garbage. So you're not going to get what you think you're getting. And don't call it a handling facility. Call it a dump. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Bigelow. Is there anyone else that's wishing to speak that's in opposition of the proposal?
Madam Chair, we have a request to speak from somebody who has neither a camera nor a mic. He's provided it on the chat, and if I might be allowed, I'll simply read it for him. He's speaking not in favor. His name is Brandon. He represents Beyond Red Line Performance at 1220 Winford Avenue. We do not need a junkyard across from our professional business, do not need more traffic, do not need more junk, do not need to get away from a junkyard next door. We have high dollar customers and vehicles that this will absolutely turn away junkyard across the street. And Brendan offers apologies that he's without it or a mic. And I have two other people who have entered comments here, one from Luke, but I don't have a full name or an address. Perhaps that gentleman would be so good as to enter that information on the chat. He notes that Gerald correct about the seagulls, that there are too many trucks and he's not in favor. And then again, Tracy Dageneff at 1136 Wilson Avenue is speaking in favor. The current violations should be enough in favor.
Not in favor.
Not in favor. Thank you. That's more like it. The current violation should be enough not to allow him a CUP. I think that's all that's here. Luke is from 1215 North Buchanan. I don't have a last name yet.
Yeah, there's another person who also MP without an address or full name.
Continuation of Tracy Dagenet, M&T.
Oh, that's great.
is raising environmental concerns. Grandpa John's is also on the same road and less than a mile away.
It looks like Luke, his last name is Stubbs with the address of 12.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Stubbs.
Okay. All right. All right. So is there anyone else wishing to speak that is in opposition to?
Tell them you own the buildings on Winford as well.
And
go ahead. Bills?
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
My name is Bill Smits. I own the building at 1173 Velp across the street, the residential / commercial building. Then I own the other lot next to that too. I 100% agree with Mr. Bigelow on that and the trash mountain they have there. By no means is that a recovery or a service area. Just looks like a big dump. And also too, that you can see it from Velp. I thought like the comprehensive plan when I bought that building across the street, that was my intention, that something like that, and Mr. Bigelow spending all that money down there for us to better that neighborhood down there, not turn it into a garbage dump or a recycle center of whatever sort. And when you're driving down Velp, you can see everything. I mean, if it's an 8-foot fence by commercial standards, it probably should be 15 feet tall. So you wouldn't be able to see it from Velp, but I am 100% against that.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this proposal?
And just to clarify for the record, this is Sid again reading from the chat from Tracy Dagoneff. She does confirm that she is not in favor.
Jerry Bigelow would like to say one more thing.
Madam Chair, point of order. I don't believe we're allowed to have somebody speak more than once.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Is there anyone else wishing to provide information only? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Or no? Muted.
Let the record reflect that no one came forward, and this public hearing is now closed. And moving on to the correlated agenda item, number 7, consideration with possible action on the request to authorize a conditional use permit for material recovery facility and automobile salvage at 1156 Velp Avenue, submitted by Burroughs Midwest LLC, doing business as Midwest Scrap Metal property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit more into our report and evaluation and our recommendation, but you still have the background. As I had mentioned, the comprehensive plan does depict the north half of the site suitable for industrial uses. So that is consistent with the comp plan. However, the southern half of the site, there you go. Southern half of the site is depicted as commercial. So that is not consistent with the comp plan. Also, the Velp Avenue area-wide plans recommendation is primarily for mixed use and modern industrial uses. And when I say modern industrial, that's usually small-scale manufacturing. Some people call it artisan-type businesses, showrooms. And again, the intent of the Velp Avenue plan, the greater intent was to create a gateway corridor downtown that had some greater curb appeal. However, and if you can go to the zoning map, Paul, however, the zoning on property, on the entire property right now is general industrial. So generally when these plans are adopted, not generally comp plans, but the area-wide plans, it's usually followed up or often followed up with a zone change. So in this case, we would have ran up and down Velp and probably rezoned the fronts of these properties to a commercial designation. Green Bay does not currently do many of those proactive rezones. And we kind of wait more for the property owners to request it or a developer to come and request it. So that zoning never changed. A majority of it is general industrial, and so does allow the material recovery, just not more of the retail salvage. So I do want to point that out. And so, you know, consistency with the plans, it's partially consistent. It wouldn't require a zone change, and obviously the zone is in place. We are recommending to be consistent as possible with the plan and still allow the property owner to get some return on his property. We are recommending that the southern approximately acre of the site not be used. Salvage operations be prohibited along Velp Avenue. It would basically be 130 feet on the western property line and 200 feet on the eastern. That split off is just about an acre. It's just under an acre, about 0.88 acres. So that is going to be our first recommendation. As I had mentioned before, when we do our regular conditional use permit evaluations, we go to the site, take the pictures, take a look. We did feel that the site is semi-blighted state. Primarily where the former building was, there are piles of gravel. There's still structures out there. The 2 unused curb cuts on Velp are not necessary. It appeared from my view that of the 6 cuts on curb cuts or driveways on Winford, that only 2 of them are going to be used by looking at the submitted plans. So while many of these improvements, and I can use air quotes improvements, might need to be removed as part of the demolition permit that was taken out when the building came down, we wanted to reiterate that and make it a condition of approval. So you'll see the second, or excuse me, number C, the unused curb cuts along Winford Avenue be removed and replaced with appropriate curbing. And then B is the area prohibited for salvage uses, which is referenced in condition 1, would have the pavement, curb cuts, and all other improvements removed in that area returned to a vegetative ground cover. In that way, staff believes an acre. We did consult with a real estate professional and our economic development staff had said you would need about an acre of property there to be able to put a commercial use on there, a more compatible commercial use than industrial. Much like Mr. Bigelow had mentioned in the public hearing, same type of condition applied to his property with his housing project. So we are recommending that. And then obviously you've heard it before, operations of this type and intensity that primarily have outdoor storage, and it's an outdoor business, it does require a fencing screen that only needs to be 6 feet high with 90% impervious or opaque material. However, the way the code is written, that is really has an assumption that this industrial type use is going to be next to or near other industrial uses. When it is adjacent residential, there's a higher screening and buffering requirement. So the close proximity to all the housing on the south side of Velp leads staff to believe that additional buffering is needed, and not only just for visual, but for noise, potential odor, and other impacts. We are recommending condition D, that a landscape buffer and vegetative screen along the south side of that relocated fence be put up that's a minimum of 6 feet high and not less than 90% opaque on a year-round basis, so evergreen type buffer. The other problem that kind of comes in and requires that buffer is the proximity and the visibility of the recovery and proposed salvage operations could have a negative impact on the redevelopment of the Velp Avenue frontage, which directly goes against the Velp plan and the part of the comprehensive plan. So, although the site or the proposed use itself is not the most desirable and it is not fully consistent with our long-range plans, staff is going to support the CUP request with the inclusion of these 4 conditions, in that it does continue to promote the values of the Velp Avenue plan. It's in keeping with the comprehensive plan. And so that we will be recommending support with those 4 conditions. We have contacted Alderman Scannell, the Mather Heights Neighborhood Association, also Alderman Stoyer, who isn't necessarily in this district but is adjacent. We notified property owners within 400 feet, placed a notification sign on the property. And to date, we have received 7 inquiries on this petition. Of those, 3 were simply inquiries, and 4 were objections. When I did the staff report, there was only 6. One of the objections we received, and I'll just kind of hold it up for you, is large. It was just received today. We were unable to go through it and kind of vet it for appropriateness. But to give you kind of a breakdown that I did read in here right away, there was concern about the stockpiling of garbage, the stockpiling of metals, and the site itself. There was a lot of concern about environmental issues. So the northern part of the site is floodplain, and there was a lot of concern about leaching of fluids and other materials that may leach into the floodplain and the watershed from inappropriately stored recovered materials, and that would only increase with the use of automobiles, refrigerators, and other more retail type materials, recovery materials. There's other things in here, and this will be kind of vetted, and it'll be prepared for the Common Council. But at this time, we were not able to make it through this large document. But the commenter's name is Dennis Nelson. He did not have an address. He did not leave an address. So with all that being said, and I know it's a lot, we are recommending approval of the conditional use permit for salvage and auto salvage operations with the 4 conditions previously mentioned.
Thank you, David.
Madam Chair, a question for Mr. Buck.
Go ahead.
Actually, 2. This is Sid. First of all, did I understand you to say, David, that you felt that this proposal was in keeping with the Velp Avenue plan? With the conditions, it is more in keeping with the conditions put in place. But because the frontage would remain commercial. But it is in keeping with the comprehensive plan. With the comprehensive plan. Okay, correct. I understand that. So I just want to get clear on our range of options here. If I'm understanding you correctly, since we have now the Velp Avenue plan and the comprehensive plan, if somebody came in and asked, as Mr. Bigelow did a while back, to make zoning changes, we would be able to do that based on an argument that it was in keeping with the comprehensive plan and with the Velp Avenue plan, correct? Correct. But if somebody wants to build something that is not in keeping with the Velp Avenue plan, and you said less not in keeping, but still I would say not in keeping with the Velp Avenue plan, are we just helpless? Well, because the zoning currently supports it and that person is not asking for a change in zoning? Correct. They're not asking for a change in zoning. So the zoning allows material recovery, but it doesn't allow salvage or auto salvage. That requires a conditional use permit. So if you remember the legislation from a few years ago, you can apply conditions to the request that would mitigate the negative impacts. But they're only asking for a conditional use and not a rezone. Zoning is still general industrial. So with the conditional use, we could exclude the auto salvage. You could, correct. That would be a recommendation of denial. You know, you could add conditions to it.
And if you felt that it didn't meet, I mean, you could deny it. If you don't think those conditions to stop the potential negative impacts in your mind could be met, or anything would save that.
Even though the current zoning supports at least part of the request.
The existing zoning supports the current use of material recovery, but not to that next level of retail. That requires the conditional use.
Boy, I'm still having difficulty with this. I'll put it right out there. I can't in good conscience vote for this because we have put a lot of time into the work on the Velp Avenue plan, and I think this is a serious step back from it. I appreciate very much Mr. Bigelow's immense investment, which was in keeping with the plan. And I find it very hard to understand how we can go forward and support this just because the current zoning, which hasn't been changed, allows it. I'm really stuck on this one. And if any help with this, I'd appreciate it.
Commissioner Daniels?
So I do have I'm sorry. Thank you, Chair. I'm trying with Sid, I'm trying to wrap my head around this as well. So the comprehensive plan was more visionary, but the current zoning is industrial. Is that correct?
Correct. So the comprehensive plan recommends a different land use than the zoning that's on site right now. We have oftentimes thought about doing rezonings immediately after plan adoptions. That has not really been a Green Bay policy in the past.
So if that had happened, the current business would not have been allowed to currently be there, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Alder Corpus Dax. I'd like to make a motion to open the floor one more time in the event that there's anybody that wants to speak that has additional information.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I second.
Second from Vice Chair Miller. A lot of seconds, but that's the first one I heard. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the floor is open. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? If you could please give me your name and address.
Jerry Bigelow, 1216 Buchanan Street. I also own the property directly across, and I've been buying more buildings directly across from him. And I got the parking lot across the street, and down the road, I was thinking about building more multifamily there, and this would make that absolutely impossible in ripping down some of these buildings. I'm ripping down one of the buildings behind the Atkins house. Like I say, I'd like to go further down here, but the land that I own right next to his across the street, it's basically rendered useless right now. There's nothing that'll go in there. So I bought that land and I bought those buildings for nothing. That's all.
May I ask a question of Mr. Bigelow?
Yes.
Madam Chair, is that allowed? Okay. Do I understand correctly that you have bought additional land to the south of the property?
Yes.
And that you consider that this use would render that land useless?
Yes, it would.
And am I correct that you have begun the building on the apartment complex for which we recommended for you before?
There's two buildings just about built. All the footings are in. Very, very nice looking site. Very quiet back there. A lot of birds. Just it's a very pleasant site. It was a big field. You know, there's a car lot in the front there, but I see since I started building, I see he got rid of half of his cars and he kind of cleaned that up and raked the yard. You know, it doesn't look bad. He's trying, he's helping, and up and down Velp, what I built is probably the first thing in 50 or 60 years that have been built other than storage sheds. You know, so you got 50 years of zero here. And I'm the first one that started. And I'll tell you, you give anybody land, they'll build on it. You know, I mean, that land that he's got that stuff on, there's a lot of good uses for it, you know. I mean, if you
You're a gateway to downtown.
you know, you're a gateway, you go down to the KI Center. I mean, this is the road they take. I mean, they go down to City Hall. This is what they see. This is what everybody takes to go to your downtown. You know, it's a gateway. I mean, it not only affects Velp, it also affects everything you're trying to do downtown. You know, I mean, you got residents moving down there on the river now. This is the first time that the city really is getting, you know, new people in the city, you know, with the east side and the west side. And it just doesn't belong there, you know. You know, it's not good for anybody. You add up all that scrap metal in there, it's worth, how much a ton is it right now?
50.
It's $50 a ton. He's got $500 worth of shit there. That's all he's got. $500. $500. I mean, look at my tax revenue. He's got $500 worth of tin boxes laying on the ground.
Let me know.
You're going to wreck the city for $500 worth of scrap?
I don't know what they're talking about. When I could talk, let me.
Point of order. Point of order. You haven't been recognized, sir.
Well, I know what scrap is. I bring refrigerator.
You've answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Bigelow.
Yep. Madam Chair, this is Ryan Groff from the firm of Meyer, Groff, and Wallace. I represent the petitioner. Could I speak?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, thank you. My address is 1425 Memorial Drive, Manitowoc, Wisconsin. I represent the petitioner. I'd like to address Mr. Bigelow's concerns, and I'd like to address the report by Mr. Nelson. And I'm going to start with Mr. Nelson's report. What this commission needs to understand is that Mr. Nelson was hired by the petitioner's largest competitor to do a hit job in a report that was 200 pages. I have 3 small children. I had very limited time to review it tonight before I came home, but I can personally speak to a number of the accusations in that report because I defended the company against meritless allegations that resulted in no criminal convictions and resulted in a dismissal of a civil suit. It's piracy, and this commission and eventually the Common Council needs to understand that this report was bought and paid for by Alter Scrap, which is their primary competitor. And Mr. Nelson is a private investigator. So that's number one. To Mr. Bigelow's point, he's got a lot of emotion. He's got a lot of frustration. He's told this commission how much money he spent and how he thinks that investment is going to go down the toilet because of these guys. That's also a fantasy. Mr. Bigelow's question of what municipality wants this, I can tell you a number do, because this is a professional organization. This is not a fly-by-night operation. They engage, hopefully, intelligent attorneys. They engage engineers. They engage environmental consultants. You saw that in the reports you were provided. So again, while I understand, what I understand from Mr. Bigelow is I had to do something that is going to be different now and my investment is going to be ruined. This is a professional organization that I have firsthand knowledge of, and again, have gone to a number of municipalities with them, engineers, environmental consultants. They are a reasonable organization. They are here to answer your questions. I don't believe they appreciate being attacked like they are with Mr. Bigelow and the words he's using. So I think they apologize for the emotion they showed. But again, this is not some 2 guys in a truck. This is a professional organization. And that might not persuade some of you, but I think some of you are getting the wrong ideas with some of the coarse language being used here, some of the accusations being thrown around here about seagulls and rats. Again, I think if the professionals at the city were worried about that, maybe you'd see that in their report instead of Mr. Bigelow's conjecture. So please ask these gentlemen any questions you want. Ask their engineers any question. Ask their environmental consultants any questions you want. But let's not rely on, frankly, these salacious allegations in a 200-page dossier, which isn't worth the paper it's written on, because I was there, and it's paid for by their primary competitor. Or, again, a man who's telling you, I got $10 million invested, it's going to be worthless. Everybody on this commission knows that's ridiculous. His investment isn't going to be worthless because a professional organization comes in. So I was planning on just being an observer tonight, and I apologize if I get long-winded, but that Mr. Petruski knows that's our profession, and once we're given an open floor, we just talk. So thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Graff. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? I see Michelle.
Yeah. Hello, this is Eric Bills again from 1156 on Velp Avenue. Thank you, Ryan, for speaking, part of B&B Metals and Burroughs Midwest. I agree with, with the backslashing on us. I think that some of the commission has been out to the property on Velp. I do believe that before we bought the property was County Materials. We took the building down because I believe it was an eyesore to the city of Green Bay before any development was made. And we leveled the property, and the property looks pretty, I believe the property looks pretty good. Yes, there is some things that need to be done, which was addressed to me by Mr. Buck. And I agree with him on that. I'm not out there constantly looking at the property, but I am out there weekly, visiting our site. Now, as far as the scrap metal that's there, I don't like people telling me what I have there and not have there and what it's worth. The scrap metal that is coming in there is coming from certified people that have scrap metal. There is no freon in any of these refrigerators. It's being dumped industrially with what I have right now with the city of Green Bay. So I am following my rules. There is not garbage blowing around. Now, the last time I was out there to put a lock on my gate, I do believe that the property east of me is owned by Mr. Bigelow. And I'll be honest with you, I believe there's more garbage on Mr. Bigelow's property than there is mine. But we're not here to talk about Mr. Bigelow. We're here to talk about Burroughs Midwest. There is no garbage blowing around on my property. It is all contained in the area on my drawing where there shows scrap piles. I have it in that area where I was directed by my environmentalist to put it, because that's what we submitted to the city of Green Bay. Currently, I have dumpsters and roll-offs on there. We are going to start moving the scrap metal out of there very shortly, because I want to make sure the gates were up and everything was good. But as far as garbage or any contaminants, absolutely none, because the scrap that is coming in is just not your normal items with oil in it or this and that. This is coming from reputable people in town of Green Bay. Dave's appliances, that all of his appliances are drained. All of his stuff is carefree, and that's the scrap I'm putting out there. Now, we have not stacked up anything. Everything is low up there. We're gonna currently move it. But what we have on site right now, I think, is very fair. I do believe that Mr. Buck was out there, and if there was any garbage or anything else, and I'm sure maybe some of the other commission has been out there, I would have got a call from the Commission of Green Bay. The only call I've ever got from the Commission of Green Bay is when the weeds were high and we went out there and we cut them down for them because that's what they wanted. That's what we did. But our scrap business, nobody has any idea what our scrap business does. We have another yard, which you see on Google, B&B Metals, which is a very clean yard, which is all concreted. We chose the county material spot because that property sat for sale for a very long time. And my property, after I demoed that big building, or our company demoed that big building from County Materials, not once did somebody come to us and offer to purchase that property. That property sat vacant for almost, I believe, get me if I'm wrong, 3 to 5 years. Now, Mr. Bigelow was so worried about what was going on Velp. Why would he not come to me when I had nothing on that property and ask to buy that property out? I never got that call, okay? And now he's concerned. I believe that what he should be concerned about is what is west of me that has more garbage on that property than what Burroughs Midwest owns. Okay, I am keeping everything in regulations. I have my scale on the property. I'm waiting for electricity. We have the scrap piles in our corner. There is basically nothing else I can do there to improve the site except for up on top of Velp that Mr. Buck said that we had to take some concrete down that was left from the demos, which I am planning to do. So far, as I look at it this way, my companies, our companies, have been following what the city of Green Bay has asked for.
It was lifted.
And then my brother would like to say a few.
Jay Burroughs, same address. That reason that wall stayed there, that's a drop off. We don't want anyone to get hurt falling off of that. And also, you know, if we put up we'll put the trees on up and make everything look the way you want it to on the top end. But if you know how that property goes, that property dips down into a lower elevation. So yes, we could put the trees there and do what you want, but there's not going to be any kind of commercial use there. I don't think there's enough land up there to do anything. We also are a family-owned business for 50 years. Mom and Dad built it. We don't put up eyesores. You might not like what we do, but it's not going to be what Mr. Bigelow said it's going to be. You can come and look at our scrapyard over here in Newton. It is the finest scrapyard in the United States. You can ask anyone that comes here how clean it is. All concrete, always getting swept, taken care of. We will not leave scraps just sitting there doing nothing because we don't make any money when the scrap's just sitting there. It needs to get processed. That's their job. Bring it in, take it out, and try to make everyone happy and make $1. That's our goal. But we're not going to be ripped on by Mr. Bigelow when he's got an eyesore too over to the left.
Well, and and for the comment made by Mr. Bigelow that I'm sitting there smashing stuff, I think anybody after this meeting or tomorrow morning can go past Velp Avenue and see if I have any material handling machines out there. I don't have anything out there besides the truck and roll-off containers, gentlemen and madams. All I have out there is containers. I have not yet touched that material. So how can I smash material according to Mr. Bigelow like I do, and it's going over to his side, or any side that is? I don't think so.
The fence goes all the way down. The fence goes all the way down. If you do have any issue, it gets caught. You know, we will have employees on there. It will be maintained very nicely.
And we also have about 60 ton of material sitting on there. Now, Mr. Bigelow, with his theories, claims that's only worth $500. Well, right now, that I think my biggest competitor in town would take 60 ton material and offer $100 a ton, and the low end would be $6,000. So that's another exaggeration that somebody's making about my property. If Mr. Bigelow at the end of the day wants to call me and buy my property, the offer's there. But I have not once in the last 3 to 5 years received a call from Mr. Bigelow offering to purchase that because he's so worried about the gateway into Green Bay. If I didn't worry about it, I would have not met Green Bay standards like they asked. We put the fence up. We put the green up. I am now going to take some concrete down that was asked by Mr. Buck to take down. I will do that. All we asked for today was recommendations. We didn't ask for fingers being pointed at us. We understand that scrapyards aren't the most beautiful thing in the world, but the way we have it set up now is okay. Is very nice. If we do sell the property for lease, I've got no problem with that if somebody wants to lease the property up there. That's why we were on this today for recommendations. That's what we were looking for. But I'm not, again, I don't agree with what Mr. Bigelow said when he's got vehicles right next to him too roaring up their engines all the time. And that's louder than my most 4-tier engine that I have in one of my excavators that's a lot quieter than the vehicles that are next door to me on the east side. So
if we move the fence to where you want it, that's fine, but you do know that the contour of that land goes down. So if we put the trees on the top contour where you would want them, so you would not see the scrap yard or the receiving yard, you're not going to have a lot of land up there I mean, it's just going to be like a park. If I'm assuming we're not going to be able to lease that out to a commercial, because I'm sure you need to go so many feet off the center line of the road. And then when the trees grow, I mean, they're going to wind on out. There's not a lot of space up there if you do walk that area. You know, so moving our fence, does that really make a lot of sense? I mean, I guess we can all talk about what we can do closer to Velp or what we can't do. We'll stay to the northern side, but to move the fence, which is going to cost us quite a few dollars, I can understand if it's a flat piece of land, but this is a contour piece of land going down. It goes here and it goes down. We put the trees on top. There is no room to put anything on that top piece. So why should we have to move that fence? We will move the fence, but yes, okay, now you have an acre. You got an acre and you got how many feet up here, and then you got how many feet down here. How does that work?
If it's feeling it's recommended to move it, I mean, we're not against it. We just don't know how because the idea is that if we move the fence and someone's interested in leasing that property above, we have no problem with that, as long as it meets your criteria. I mean, that's, for a small business up there. But I mean, we went out and put $36,000 fence up so we don't have these problems, and there is nothing snowing and blowing. We got $15,000 into environmentalist, which is Stantec, which I think you see is on our stuff. I have an attorney working on this to make sure we don't have any problems here with this. I mean, long and short of it, I hate to say it, but I mean, I think I'm following every rule and regulation I can. But when someone makes accusations that are not true, I don't like that being pointed at me. And I'm not going to get mad about it. I mean, that he's got his way of doing things, but I'm here, to show you what reality is and go out there and look at it. That's all I have on my end.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any commissioners that had questions for the petitioner?
Yes, I would like to ask if we could see the series of recommendations that the staff has made, and I'd like to know if the petitioners are agreeable to each one of those points. If we put it up on the board, this will remind you of what they are, if you'd be so kind.
Am I to speak now, Sid?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yep. I just wanted to make sure. As far as we look at on the salvage operations along Vit, which is the 130 foot along the western property, we would have to move our current fence 10 feet to make it, because right now it's at 120 feet. Is that a big issue to us? No, it's not a big issue to us. I think my brother's point was that it's a slope there. How can anybody put anything on there? But moving that fence 10 feet, that is not a big problem with us. I do realize that we have to, I believe, on the Winford side, we have to move the fence about 80 feet. 80 feet. That is not a big issue. If that is what's necessary to get these permit and to get the property leased on top or sell the property on top of somebody, we have no issue with that. As far as number B, Sid, it says the area provided pavement, curb cutouts. I believe, yes, that should be taken care of. We were just waiting to go through this, and I would ask one of your representatives to be out there and show me which ones, but I foresee no problem with that. And vegetation.
I guess, what is the vegetation that you mean? Is that, I guess we got to get a little better understanding. I don't mind putting vegetation down, but are you talking about you have your curb and you have 4 or 5 feet of grass and you have trees planted in between the curb and would be our southbound property line? Is that what you're talking about? I mean, because it's all blacktop up there and gravel. You want us to take the blacktop and the gravel out and just put grass? I mean, does that make sense if we're going to put this up for lease? I mean, you want us to put the evergreen trees in on the top end? I mean, I guess we'll do it, but I guess we got a little bit of idea of what you're looking for. I mean, we don't want to just waste money.
Clarification.
Maybe a little bit.
Of course, but that is something that you would be willing to undertake with direction from the city.
Oh, yes, and in a previous discussion that I had with David Buck, yes, I mean, again, we need somebody out there to show us. I mean, we can look at maps all day long, but yes, to understand, yes, that is something that we can undertake.
And the staff is very good at working with people on such things.
That's all we're
asking for. Removing the unused curb cuts along Winford and replacing them with appropriate curbing.
That's fine.
Yes, that's fine. I don't know how many are there for sure. I do believe what Mr. Buck said, there was 4 or 6, and there can only be 1 or 2, but that's no big deal. I mean, if it has to get fixed up, it has to get fixed up. We understand that.
And then the final one, including a landscape buffer along the south side.
I guess as long as you guys are give us more clarification on that. I mean, we've got the screen fencing up now, which I know you guys are aware of and ladies are aware of, but because that property starts even with Velp and then goes down on that slope. Do you want us to, are you recommending for us to put trees right by our fence? Or are you recommending to put trees up on top of the slope? I think that's what my brother was trying to get at. Because if we put trees up on top of the slope, you're not going to have a lot of room for somebody to build. So I just, again, said I don't want to put trees there, and all of a sudden, let's just say that you retire from commission and you want to go put a shoe store there, I got to rip those trees out and move them down. So I guess I want to do it once.
And if you put them down below, I mean, you're still going to get the same effect of what you still see from Velp. I mean, I'm thinking the trees would be looking better on top, but I think that just takes that lease. If we want to lease that property, what do we do then? You just cut it in half. You cut it in half.
Mr. Buck is raising his hand would be really.
And Mr. David.
Sure. To clarify, and I know I've talked with the petitioner multiple times, but so we're recommending pulling that fence back to leave basically an acre of usable space. It is heavily sloped. It currently has concrete, gravel, sort of that structure with blocks and stuff in it. The condition would be all of that is removed, everything. It goes to basically grass ground cover, vegetative ground cover. The reason for the plantings on the north or on the south side of the fence, down that acre to be developable, that's on the south, those trees will grow and act as a second buffer to the fence and actually a better sound buffer. And the petitioners are right. There is a grade change from Velp to where their operations currently are. But that southern portion of the property, again, there's a grade change, but grades can change. Driveways can be put in that are ramped or on a slope. When a building goes up on that site, that building will then act as the buffer. The building will block the material recovery operations. But before that happens, and we don't know how long that would be, those trees would act as the buffer closer to the fence. So on the bottom of the slope next to the fence, if that's clear. But I did want to point out that I believe the demolition permit that has already been received is going to require all that asphalt and stuff to get pulled out of there anyway. Again, this was a reiteration in the conditional use, just to, it kind of all works together, right?
Yeah, no objection. Yeah, as long as it's clarified. Yeah. So there's no objection to that.
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay. Did any other commissioners have questions for the petitioners? Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Is there anyone else wishing to speak regarding this issue?
Hello.
Hi, if you could please state your name and address for the commission, please.
I'm Carmen, and I live on Winford Avenue.
Okay, can you please give your full name and address, ma'am?
I'm Carmen Savchuk. I live at 1115 Winford Avenue. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead with your testimony.
Okay. Well, I've lived at this property for 23 years. And I just find it very unfair because we just got this, the paperwork last Saturday. And then, the meeting was today, but the noise, there is noise. I have a sun porch. I sit out on it for years now. And on that Wednesday, the Wednesday after the Sunday, the noise was unreal. And going up onto Velp, when you pull up onto Velp, it is piled high. If you would go out there and look, it is piled high. And it's just, I don't know, I'm just disgusted with it. The neighbors around here are all elderly. I've talked to them. None of them know how to work the technology of today. If this would have been a meeting at a place, because if the COVID wasn't, around, I am sure there would have been a lot of people talking, and we're all against it, basically. I think that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, I guess I'll entertain a motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a point. Maybe I was too hasty in agreeing to vote to close the floor, but maybe we should start with just a quick review from staff on what our legal obligations are with the CUP, because I know they changed not long ago. If I could ask staff to just remind us what our obligations are in either supporting or denying a CUP.
Certainly. Okay, so a conditional use permit is a use in the zoning that is now considered permitted, but can be mitigated if there's any negative impacts on the community. So obviously, and I do want to make clear that the material recovery is permitted without the conditional use. It's really the salvage and scrap. So, if there's going to be traffic that's generated that the streets can't handle, if it's going to have a negative impact, in this case, staff is arguing there'd be a negative impact on the Velp corridor, which kind of leads to our conditions for the screening. So conditions can be added to it to mitigate any of those issues. If you feel that there's no conditions whatsoever that would mitigate the issues, you could then recommend denial. But if there are conditions that the petitioners can perform that would mitigate the concerns, again, and I kind of listed those out in the staff report, you can put those conditions on and approve. Recommend approval. Obviously, the council is the only one who approves or denies. But
am I remembering this correctly, that if we feel that there are conditions that would mitigate the problems, we are required to approve under the new legislation?
If you feel that they can be mitigated, yes. If you can place conditions on it that would mitigate the issues, you're obliged to put on the conditions and approve it or recommend approval, and then it becomes the petitioner's problem to meet those conditions. So if they can't meet them, that conditional use can be removed. But they are sort of stating that they could. So at least that's what I gathered.
And just to re-clarify this, sorry, David, you're saying that they can go ahead with the material recovery part of what they propose regardless, because the zoning allows that, but we could deny or mitigate the salvage and scrap part of it.
Correct. And actually, they could receive a conditional use permit and then never activate it and never do the more of the retail salvage and auto salvage, and continue to use it as a material recovery. That is a permitted use.
Then my difficulty has to do with my lack of knowledge I'm concerned about whether or not the material recovery part of things is the part responsible for the noise that neighbors are concerned about, and for the seagulls who clearly are after something edible rather than something mineral. I don't know whether or not we've got a problem here that we can address.
Right, and I believe the petitioners have been operating just this last month, I think, right? They just started operations currently.
And those were the operations of material recovery only,
correct,
not of scrap or salvage.
Correct.
Well, then I think we've got a problem with our zoning. If the zoning that allows material recovery here also allows the kind of noise and seagull interest that the neighbors are concerned with.
Right, and the city does have a general noise ordinance and a nuisance abatement program. So those, you know, in the regular municipal code, those could be regulated. But yes, the zoning that's on the site does not match the plans. The existing zoning does not match the plans or the intent of the Velp Avenue plan. So again, staff kind of put these conditions on to mitigate any of the potential negatives while still allowing a permitted use.
And I do appreciate how careful and thoughtful they are. I'm still stuck with the fact that this is supposed to be, and it was not Mr. Bigelow's fantasy, it was a part of a long-term task force process, a gateway to the city.
So just to put a fine point on what I just heard, my understanding is, just in theory, if we were to deny this conditional use permit today, just carte blanche deny it, everything that's happening now could still lawfully continue, correct?
Correct. As far as the uses go, like I had said, there's probably some demolition that even if they didn't get the conditional use, they're still going to have to remove the stuff off of the front. Yes, the operations as I understand they're operating now could still continue.
So by adopting this conditional use permit, we would actually be able, or would be formally creating more restrictions on the property than are currently going on as far as mitigation goes.
Well, you would be adding conditions because of the heightened use of the property with the auto salvage and the scrap and the retail scrap yard element. So yes, you could add conditions based on that, that you wouldn't apply to the regular material recovery that's currently there. Only thing that is really required right now is the fencing. And again, they still have to clean up the site and stuff, but yeah.
So by adopting the conditional use permit as proposed, we would in essence be able to enforce conditions on the property as a whole that, while it maybe wouldn't change what's going on now directly, it could create some mitigation for the neighborhood overall.
Yeah, I believe those mitigation measures, I believe, would be the best compromise between the permitted use that's there and the intent of the long-range plans.
The staff obviously has had time to review the environmental study that was performed, and I trust that you wouldn't be recommending approval if it didn't meet the standards required by the city.
Well, we did not receive an environmental study. I think what Attorney Graff was speaking to was that large packet I said that we received today. That was a comment from from an interested party. I think that's what he was referring to. There are some floodplains shown on the northern part of that property. You know, there may be some wetlands underneath the pavement out there. I don't know. The petitioners did show the floodplain on their site plan, and they have the zoning administrator at the city to not store anything in those areas. So yes, they are complying with existing environmental regulations. But yeah, we did not receive an environmental report, or not for this project. They might have submitted it with their demo permit, maybe.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, if I might speak again, I am concerned about the packet you referred to. I believe the gentleman's name was Mr. Nelson who had submitted it. And as you mentioned before, David, that you had not had a chance to vet it. There were a fair number of accusations going back and forth among the various parties involved here. And I do not accept without vetting the accusations that this was a
Sid, we lost you. We can't, you got muted somehow.
Unmute myself there. I'm back. I do think that packet should be vetted, to use the term that you used, David. And frankly, I'm a little bit nervous about going ahead with a decision here until that happens. And so I am going to move to table this matter. And that is a non-debatable motion, but it does need a second.
To postpone, not table.
Postpone, yes. Until the packet, which is part of the materials received on this matter, can be vetted and presented to us.
I would be, this is Alder Corpus Dax, I would be willing to second that. That would have been my recommendation. I'm not comfortable approving this as is. I don't believe that the conditions are going to mitigate any issues that the surrounding residents and businesses have with how things are right now. And I think adding that retail portion of it isn't going to necessarily make things better. So at best, I would like to see this tabled. Otherwise, I would vote to deny this.
So you are seconding my motion to...
I am seconding your motion to table, to hold it.
Additional material can be considered.
Not necessarily the additional material to be considered, but I guess like the 6-foot fence, that's an issue as it is right now. I don't see how a 6-foot fence in the current condition, in the conditions that are listed, is going to help the situation. I feel like more needs to be done here.
More information needed.
More information needed, more action taken.
And that clearly was the intent of my motion to table.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, I'd like to bounce off that if that's all right.
Go ahead.
Kind of the same sentiment, but for a couple different reasons. There's a couple parties here that have not been involved that I would really like to be. Number one, both the aldermen of the district involved, but also I believe it was Alder Stoyer who is adjoining, if I had that correct. I'd left alders. Also the neighborhood association. There's also been no neighborhood meeting. This is obviously a divisive type of project and situation. We need to hear from the people involved. So I'm a little disappointed that neither the alders showed up tonight for this, because I'd like to hear that now versus having to go back and do this again. But there are some voices we need to be hearing from the neighbors and the representatives of the neighborhood before I think we can do anything with this. So I will additionally support tabling, or whatever the terminology was for.
So now I guess I do have a concern about this, and I know I'm probably not going to say this as lovely as Dr. Vonk would have done, but what we're looking at, and please correct me if I'm wrong, David, but I mean, what we're looking at overall for the CUP is we're looking at land use. Now we understand that there are issues with neighbors, but I guess I want clarification. We're looking specifically for the land use, and it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but if a property fits within the conditions of the CUP, isn't that something where if it's appropriate for the land use, it fits the CUP, that we have a legal responsibility to allow that to move forward?
If you're convinced that the conditions in place will mitigate the additional effects of the conditional use request. So if you don't believe that those conditions or conditions you can come up with would mitigate the negatives of the requested auto salvage and scrapyard, not the recovery business, you could then deny it. You would not have to approve it. But if you feel conditions could mitigate that, then it would be your responsibility to put the conditions on petitioners to agree to them, and the operation be approved.
Okay. And so what we were talking about earlier too, as far as this is a comprehensive plan, and had the comprehensive plan and the zoning matched as soon as the comprehensive plan went through, we wouldn't be in this situation right now because the zoning wouldn't be what it currently is, correct?
Correct.
But it would match the comprehensive plan. It wouldn't be the same thing that it's been for however long it's been.
Right. So when the petitioners would have came to establish the material recovery, they would have had to pull that way back at least half of the site to match the comp plan if the zoning had been changed.
Okay. So if we're asking to postpone this, I mean, what is that going to do, or what is that as staff, what are you going to do at that point?
Well, what we do is probably talk a little bit more with the petitioners about what's been said tonight and the issues, be able to look through that large report that was submitted and see what's in there, and if there's any new items in there that might sway our recommendation or our conditions on our recommendation. And then based on the testimony we heard tonight, also potentially get other staff in. So, there was discussion on traffic. So I'd probably get the traffic engineer to give us an idea of how many trucks are coming and going, and if Winford and Velp can handle that traffic, and be able to report those kind of loose items back to you when you would next meet.
Okay. All right. So go ahead.
And I'm sorry, David.
Go ahead.
I just have a really quick. I'm sorry. I just have a really quick question, David. So, in your professional opinion, would you say you need more time to gather details and to come up with another recommendation, or in your professional opinion, would you believe your recommendation would be the same from staff?
Well, without looking at the large submittal and hearing what I had heard this evening, I don't believe my recommendation would change or the conditions would change. But again, I don't have all the information, so they could very well change.
Okay.
And again, we have not. There was no neighborhood meetings, and again, the alderperson for the district or the adjoining, I have not spoken with them either. So, I mean, we've contacted them, let them know the petition is coming forward, but yeah. So I'd probably go ahead and do all that with more time.
Okay.
I think we should have a vote then on the motion to postpone.
So do we have a motion and a second for the motion to postpone?
I seconded.
Second.
Veronica.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Can we just make sure that the directives to Dave are clear so we don't have to go back through this again? Like I said, my specific requests were at least comments, either whether the alders, whether they join us on the meeting next time or provide written comments. I know we can't dictate a neighborhood meeting, but it'd be difficult to schedule that by the next meeting, of course, but at least the alders comments, especially as I forget her name, the woman that spoke before about the neighborhood and how a lot of them didn't know how to manage the technology. A little bit of outreach there, I think, would be nice as well to get some comments from them.
Yeah, and for me, from David, I would just, like you said, more information on traffic and environmental impacts.
And my concern was with the packet that you received too late to be able to go over before this meeting. And vetting it, I think, is an important point, the origins as well as the substance.
Anything else that the commissioners would like to add?
Veronica, I think you mentioned something else before.
Not sure if I did, but I agree with what everyone else has said.
So we probably got it pretty much covered.
I think so.
Okay, so with a motion to postpone, where are we, how long are we postponing it for? Is that something that we need to set right now as well?
You should set the date, and I would recommend the next meeting, which I believe is, can you correct me, Paul, is that September
28th?
1st, 28th.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Go ahead and with a roll call vote. Vice Chair Miller?
Aye.
And I'm sorry, we are voting to postpone to the next meeting, September 28th, for this item with further clarification. Alder Corpus Dax?
Aye.
Commissioner Bremer?
Aye.
Commissioner Petrowski?
Aye.
And Commissioner Daniels?
Aye.
I will also vote aye. So unanimous vote for that item to be postponed until the next Planning Commission meeting. And moving on to the wrong agenda. The director's report.
Hello. The only thing I wanted to bring up was that at the last council meeting, all of our planning items were passed through. That included the first reading for the game day parking ordinances and the temporary use permits. So that all passed. And I think that's all I had for reports. I don't know if Paul and Dave, if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
There's one thing I'd like to add, I guess. We are going to be bringing a housing study. I don't know if you want to mention that, Cheryl, to the Redevelopment Authority, and we'll probably share as an information item in September. Share you that housing study. The city, I don't know, Cheryl, you might want to have a better way to explain it.
So we hired MSA to do a housing study based on Green Bay. They've done a little bit of the more surrounding area, but mostly Green Bay, to kind of talk to us about what our needs are for new construction, where the greatest need is. We just got a copy of it today that we're reviewing, and our goal is to get it to the Redevelopment Authority next week, Tuesday, for approval, and then that will be sent to the Plan Commission as well and to Council. So we certainly want to get this information out to a lot of people so the developers know kind of what the needs are for the area. I think generally speaking, the needs are all-encompassing for almost all types of units, but there are some emphasis placed on particular types of units. So that will be coming in the future.
Right. It's pretty important for the Plan Commission to have as you're evaluating rezones, you're evaluating plan, and conditional uses for that matter. It's good background to have for the comp plan update, our block grant spending. It should be pretty interesting. So just wanted to.
Is there any action being taken by Redevelopment Authority on it?
I think they'll probably motion to approve that because it was funded through the RDA. So either way, that will go to Council. We want that to go to Council for review as well.
Right, but it'll probably give you a couple slides of highlights, for the Plan Commission's benefit.
I would like to make a request for information too, since we do have a number of people who are relatively new on the Plan Commission. A couple of years ago, we had advice from City Council about the appropriateness of private conversations outside the Plan Commission meeting. And I know I was approached, as was at least one other member of the commission, with somebody who wished to talk with us about one of the items on the agenda. And I would like some clarification on that once again. I think it would be helpful.
Certainly. Yeah, anytime you guys feel you need any type of education or assistance or anything, and a lot of you are new, just shoot that out. You can even just call us individually and we can do it whenever.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Date of the next meeting, Monday, September 28th, 2020. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourn.
Motion by Alder Corpus Dax, by Commissioner Brown.
If you vote in favor, click on your leave button.
Right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Good night, all.